Christine, were you with us last week?
No, I'm taking a class, but they let me not have to take it today.
Okay.
Um, so I was able to join today, but I was hoping to be able to look at these uh, little shows afterwards, but I don't know how to get onto the recordings.
I'll email you the recording for the first one.
Okay,
Just a
thanks.
quick recap. We went over, some of the history of the internet and, implementing SEO and kind of overlooked over Google My Business, the benefits of it. But Rich will definitely go in more detail today on how to implement those strategies. But
Okay,
yeah,
thank
the
you.
first it was just giving you a basics introduction to it.
Okay.
But
Christine, can you introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your background and your business?
I'm Christy Warsh. I work at the Department of Rehabilitation. It's a state facility, and what we do is we help folks with disabilities get jobs. And I have a lot of, I'll have people that could be interested in doing this kind of thing. I have high school kids that are thinking of being like YouTube or celebrities and stuff. So I can see how doing e-commerce could be a kind of a progression for them. Um, so I thought this would just
Absolutely.
be good to have some background information because I know they don't know a lot about the world, and so I wanted to give them some real world information.
Sure. Well, so my name is Rich Henrich. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Rook SEO,
Mhm.
which is now transitioned to Rook Digital, as we're now in the 2021 starting to move into a lot more of some of the tools that Paul and I are going to discuss today. We see that businesses obviously are in great need, and so giving more to our businesses in 2021 is really what we're trying to set out to do. Where traditionally we'd been an SEO company, and I kind of went over that last week. Where search engine optimization, the basics of that, really you want to think about why the internet was created. It's to exchange research and information, right? So university to university, researcher to researcher. Well, the internet is still structured that way. And what that means for us is that we must follow a structure of how the internet was created, how it was intended to be used, and everything is I guess if you look at a website and think of it as a research paper, where you have your opening statement, your abstract or your thesis, and you have your body to support that, and then you have a conclusion which reinforces what your hypothesis is. Because the internet was created that way, Google also sort of sees everything in a manner of research, right? So your website ultimately says, this is what my company, business, product, service is about. And the more content you have on that site about what you're about, the more it reinforces, by definition, what you are about. So we call that the metadata. And we'll often talk about meta tags, and it's literally meta meaning about what you are about. So the basics of SEO, what we talked about last week, were how does somebody find your business, product, or service? 25% of that is what you put on the page, what you say you're about, and 75% is what we call off page. Those are links that other companies or other people say this is what you're about. And then we can get into a little bit more of Google reviews, and why some of those reviews are so really powerful right now is because we all use them. We all go to the great Google machine and we ask, hey, is this restaurant good? Is this company good? And we look at those reviews and we actually read the reviews of strangers and we trust them. So what we're going to get into today is a little bit more of the e-commerce side, and part two of a three-part series of giving you the foundations to really understand how you can continue to keep your businesses open, how you can grow during a pandemic, and ultimately how you can generate revenue for your company, even if your doors are technically and physically closed. All right, any questions from last week from anybody? Oh, Robert, you're muted. Robert, did you have something you were going to say?
Yeah, I'm already on Google, and I have Google on there, and I have a couple reviews that are not kind of negative, that I have no idea who the person is.
Okay.
I've tried contacting them, and I don't know how to get them off there.
Well, we'll have Paul go into that in a little bit later on in this presentation. But essentially, having a bad review isn't the end of the day. Google actually doesn't want to see you perfect, right? They don't want to see a 5.0 with 1,000 reviews. They would look at that as something strange, something's off about that. So don't worry about that too much. We'll go through what you can do and how to address that properly.
All right.
So when we look at e-commerce, essentially it's, what is it? It's, the basics are essentially how do we get our business online so we can engage in commerce? Well, what tools are available to us? What technology is available to us? How do the customers find you? Well, how are they finding you now? Word of mouth, right? Or if you have a Google page, if you have a website, if you've advertised, all these things still apply even though you're going to go online. Now, all of us tend to do the same thing with our phones, right? We pick it up, look at it, try to figure out where we're going to go eat. If we're going to look for a business, we're looking for a local business. Oftentimes, even though we think in terms of Amazon, people are really looking for products and services that are local. And within 24 hours, I think the statistics about 75% of the people will actually go into a local-based business. So don't think just because we're not Amazon that you can't compete. In many cases, we've actually had clients and businesses ourselves where we've actually competed in a category against an Amazon and actually are coming up first in search results over that. And it really has to do with Amazon has to be all things to everybody. And when you're looking at your business, you're going to focus on a certain niche of what your product or service is. And you're going to just target your local area on that. And then you're going to obviously expand for some of the bigger businesses that are going to go national. But you can compete against, things like Amazon. We have several clients that do have Amazon stores, and we'll get into that in a second too. But just think in terms of your product and service, what you're offering, how are people going to find you? And what these techniques and the tools that we're going to share with you today, really about how you position yourself in front of your audience. One of the greatest tools I think that any business can use, and if you're not on it already, it's Google My Business. So we call it GMB for short. That's when you go into a search, you're going to quickly find maps, right? What we call the map 3-pack, or the golden real estate of all real estate on the internet, because that's the first thing people encounter. So when they go and look for your business or product or service and you're not appearing in those maps, immediately you're already at a disadvantage. So one of the first things we want to do is make sure that businesses are going to be set up with a Google My Business listing. And then we can get into categories and how you actually can broaden people's search of how they find you. Oftentimes businesses will focus on one aspect of that. So we'll get into that in a little bit. The other aspect of it is that it's free. It's a free available tool to you. So if you're not using it, there's no reason why you can't be. And so today what we're going to go over is a lot of the free tools that you can be using and cover the basics to get you up on the internet and get you comfortable with interacting with online customers and going through some of those best practices. Facebook is doing quite a bit. I think over the pandemic last year, they've made great advances and strides to try to really build up more of an e-commerce presence. So you have Google and Facebook to kind of have this little quiet battle going on as Facebook wants to grab more businesses. And so we can talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. Facebook also owns Instagram, so you have Instagram stores. One of the things that you can do with IGTV, help promote your products on that as well. And then eBay, I'm sure most of you are familiar with. sort of an online site where you can offer your products for sale. Etsy is another one of those too that kind of lends itself more to arts and craft. And then more recently, we're starting to see a lot of businesses on Shopify. So Shopify is a platform that really makes e-commerce pretty easy. So Paul and I have a company, for example, and we use Shopify. It's one of those kind of the easier plug and play, especially to get you started. And if you're not going to get that sophisticated, it's easy to get set up, and it's relatively cheap. So you're not really going to have to take out a mortgage or take out a loan to get anything set up on any of the tools that we're going to share with you today. And of course, the big monster is Amazon. Amazon can be pretty complicated, be pretty complex. A lot of businesses can get into trouble with Amazon because they're not understanding how to ultimately control the ads of it and how to get traffic, or how many products you need to put up online before you start getting noticed by Amazon. So Amazon is a big, powerful tool. It's an incredible marketplace, but it's also something that can be pretty complex. And sometimes businesses will jump in and not figure out how to navigate, and creates a lot of problems for them. So in the Coachella Valley, we have a date farmer, obviously that was shut down due to distribution channels. During the pandemic, they typically sell to hotels and cruise lines. All of a sudden, they had all these dates, no distribution channels to get rid of their product. We've set them up with an Amazon store to really pick up traction. So it's a new channel for them. It was a very big pivot point for them as a business. Obviously, typically, a date farm is not necessarily engaging in online. They don't think of themselves as an online business. So we've had to spend a lot of time kind of educating them and positioning them in a different marketplace. And oftentimes what you'll find is your competitor in the real world isn't necessarily the same competitor that you have in the online world. And so when we look at beyond Amazon, we can get a lot of businesses set up on Sears.com and on Walmart.com. And oftentimes businesses don't realize that these are platforms that are pretty powerful. And in many ways, it's an effort to at least provide some level of competition to the beast of Amazon. One of the great things, I think, for any business when we get into e-commerce or digital marketing in general is the ability to have analytics. So when we look at Google Analytics or we look at social media platforms, they provide an incredible amount of data. And when we can look at that data, we see what's going on. But oftentimes, when you first start, you don't really understand what all the analytics mean. You don't necessarily know how to read the reports, and it can be pretty confusing. And unfortunately, in our industry, on the digital marketing end, there are a lot of businesses that don't necessarily explain a lot to you, and they don't verify their results. And so then that can cause further problems by just sending you reports without explanations or without verifications from third parties, such as Google Analytics themselves is a third party. So you get reliable information. But the goal of our analytics, what we're really trying to do is discover insights. So who's responding to your products or services? What are they looking for? We can really get into even what that buyer journey is. Where do they stop on your website? Where do they decide to click, and do they abandon the shopping cart? How do you retarget them when that happens? Do you see, all of a sudden a new market emerging? We have a client of ours that does a lot of gift baskets. One thing we discovered for her was there was actually a growing market of male buyers. And so we started to now target a lot of products to the male buyers that were in a different demographic than she was ever even trying to target. And what they were looking for were different types of products. So maybe before the products were a little bit more leaning towards the gift side, the male market started to emerge where they wanted to do gift baskets for tailgates. So we started to theme things around football and, college football, NFL football, Super Bowl. Started doing things for, gifts for dad's birthday, Father's Day, and really just started to cater those products. but we wouldn't know that that market really even existed for her unless we had the data and the insights to find that. And what both of those, the analytics and the insights, allow us to do ultimately as business owners is take action. We can look at our competitors, we can see what environment they're in, we can see what their clients are actually responding to, and we can gain that insight and apply that to our businesses pretty quickly. And so rather than sort of navigating in a murky world, we'll actually have data that we can substantiate what our strategy and our tactics will be. So this is a quick little overview of what a Google Analytics report might look like, where you see kind of a year-over-year trend. So if we looked at, this orange line here, maybe this is oftentimes where a business we've started working with, they really haven't done anything to optimize their website. They don't probably have Google My Business set up. And they might have, a website, but they're not really doing much with it to utilize that as a tool. And then once you start to optimize, what you'll see is year over year, all of a sudden, incremental growth. And then you will start to see like these peaks and valleys, which oftentimes can indicate to us seasonality, right? In the desert, we often have seasonality because of tourism season, right? Summer months for a lot of businesses will tend to go down. We'll see, right after Christmas, a lot of companies, things will start to go down. So what we find is these trend lines, and that's really what we're looking for ultimately. And then these little insights here will tell us how many visitors. It'll give you a percentage of, how many people have actually come to your site. Last year, you'll see 665 versus over 5,000. So that's great growth. And that's not unreasonable. That can definitely happen when you optimize the site. And then the pages and visits, it's really about, how many people are coming to your site. How many pages are they going to? The more pages that they interact with, generally the better. Says, they like your content. And then we look at visitor duration. The longer somebody's on your site, it can mean that it's a great thing, and usually it does because they're engaging with the content on the site and they're clicking through different pages and they're getting the information that they want and that they need. The other side is we look at is, how many new visitors, right? Are we growing? How many new people came through your digital doors? We want to always watch to see where that growth is. And, oftentimes it's, did a campaign work? Did we see new growth after an ad campaign, or new content that we added to a site, or new links that were being built to that site? The other side of it is bounce rate. And generally we look at, a healthy bounce rate is 70%, right? So anything under that is generally pretty great. And what that is somebody comes to their site, they land on it and they say, no, this site is not for me. This is not what I was looking for. We all do it in our own searches all the time. We land on something that we think is what we're looking for. We discover it's not, and we bounce. So what, again, we want to look at is, in e-commerce is the great strength of it is our analytics and our insights. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul in just a second, because what we want to do is now be able to look at how do we use these tools. That's the broad overview of what e-commerce is and what we can do to get into it and how it can ultimately help us win as business owners. But the key thing, I think, is you have to get in the game. If Wayne Gretzky said, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take, still holds true in every aspect of life and every aspect of business. So, Paul, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll stop my screen share.
Awesome. Good morning, guys. How's everybody doing today? Big reactions.
Great.
Good. I have to hit my unmute button, so I have a time lag.
There you go. Thank you for hitting your unmute button. All right, guys. Like we talked about last week, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take 15 minutes or so. We're going to jump in. The first step to getting online, no matter what kind of business you are, the first major free tool, as Rich mentioned there on his slideshow, the first one listed is Google My Business. If you do not have a Google My Business listing, you need it. If you already have one, pay attention to what we go through here. You want to make sure that your listing is optimized and completely filled out. I'm going to show you basic, quick steps to go through here. The main things that you need to pay attention to so that you can really optimize it. But then we're also going to talk about some extra tips and tricks you can use to further optimize your listing. Put yourselves a step ahead of the competition. Really use some strategies they probably don't know or aren't using. What we see oftentimes, things we tell our clients to do, they've heard it. Somebody's told them to do it. They've never done it. Right now, we're focusing on things you can do for yourself for free that will have really big impact. It's not just, oh, do a little bit more of this because you can. No, it's do this because if you do it consistently over the next few weeks, you will see big impact on your rankings. You'll start showing up more. You'll start picking up more phone calls. So that's ultimately what we're after. Let me jump in here. Let's see, let me share my screen really quick. And I have pulled up Augustin, can you give me power to share my screen here? I'm going to pull up a listing. Thank you very much. Okay. This is the screen we want to look at. Okay, so if you don't have Google My Business, just jump online and type in google.com/business. Come right here. You can sign in to create one. If you're just creating one, they will go through a verification process and send you a postcard to your address. Now, one thing a lot of people are concerned about, what if I'm working from a home office and I don't want to show my address? If you go through Google's guidelines and look at their policies, you can set up a listing that does not show an address. It's called a service area business, or meaning you will go out and meet with your customers or clients. You'll go to their place and meet them. You'll go to a coffee shop, whatever. They're not generally walking in and sitting down in your living room. You can do that, and Google swears up and down in all their printed literature that there is no difference in the ability to rank a service area business that does not show an address or a regular business that is showing an address. In my experience, that is a complete lie. If you are showing an address, you always rank faster and you will rank higher. Chances are people aren't just going to show up and knock on your door. I've yet to have a client that has that problem, even though many of them have been concerned about it. So my suggestion would be at this point, even if you mainly work from a home office, I don't care, put your address on there. If people start showing up and knocking on your door, you can go and hide the address later. But for now, until you have that problem, show your address. It's going to be the most beneficial to you. Now, once you log in, you're going to get to a dashboard like this. Right here in the middle of the page is all the main information about your listing. And you want to fill it out as completely as you can. As you set up that initial account, Google is going to ask you to choose a category for the services that you offer, the type of business that you are. Pick the category that makes the most sense, okay? But afterwards, you can go back in here and you can add additional categories. Now, what you want to get to is right here. It says, complete your business profile. You want to be at 100%. These people, this profile we're looking at, they're just some friends I help out. That's why they're not at 100%. I've given them things to do. They haven't done it. All they really need to do is add a logo to their business, and they would be at 100%, right? But let's go through here. It will take this a piece at a time and talk about, you know, the main stuff that you need to have. So the first one is just basic business info. There are a lot of categories in here that you will not fill out when you initially set up the account. You have to go back in after it's verified, after you receive your postcard from Google with a code on it. You input that code, and then you can come in here and you edit this. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you didn't know, I hope you did, but if you didn't, in Google, under the categories where you can be listed, you can actually list up to 10 categories. Now, let me tell you why that's important. Every category you have listed that represents a service or product that you offer qualifies you to show up in a certain amount of searches. So, for example, right here, their number one category as a dental office is dentist. So that qualifies them to show up in searches surround or related to dentist. Best dentist, top dentist, dentist near me, dentist in Westchester, family dentist, things like that. There are a handful of those that are going to be searched the most often. So that one category qualifies them for, 5, 6, 7 different major searches, right? Every time you add a new category, you open the door to another 6 or 7 major searches that are going to get traffic and going to get searches consistently. Okay? So as you go through and you search it, make sure you're creative in what you do. At the end of this, when we've gone through all the basic information, I will show you a way to spy on your competitors and take a look at some of the things they're doing that are driving business. If you can get a peek behind the curtain and see how they're doing it, you can use those same strategies yourself. So we'll get back to it. But when you do a search, you pull up a list like this, and then as you do your search, Google will give you a list of suggested categories that they have that you could use. Okay, so type in something and then scroll through here and say, all right, what fits, what's close? Again, if you're looking for phone calls, if you need to be busier than you are, and you see a category on here that you think, well, it's not really what I do, but kind of related. At this point in time, add it. Use it to your advantage. It might not be exactly what you do, but it's a phone call, and you start talking to that person who's in need of something. And oftentimes, a lot of our clients find out, well, I don't really do that service, but when I talk to them, I find out they need that service plus what I do, and it brings me new business. So use it. Once you get to the point that you have call after call and you just can't handle it all, then you can jump back in here and you can refine your list of categories to be much more specific. You won't take as many phone calls that you can't service. Okay, so number one is get in here and choose your categories. If you only have one category and you add another 5 or 6 to it, you just open yourself to 5 or 6 times the opportunity. It's that quick and that simple. Okay, now here's a little tip. If you open, for this example, if I'm a dentist on my site, I'm going to have a page just about general dentistry. If I have a category of cosmetic dentist in Google My Business, I want to match that on my website. And I will have a page on my website that specifically offers the general services of cosmetic dentistry. Okay, we call that mirroring. The categories you have in your Google My Business listing are a major ranking factor. And Google is looking at what your website says on one hand versus what your Google My Business listing says on the other hand. The more closely those match up, the higher you're going to rank. Okay, so remember to mirror all the information you provide in GMB on your site and on your site to GMB. You want those to match up as closely as you can. Now on your site, you'll have a lot of pages you can't mirror in GMB because Google just doesn't have those categories or they're not that specific in any given industry, but do as close as you can. Okay, so categories. This is a huge indicator. We will come back with some tips on that one in a minute. Address, again, when setting up your account, my recommendation up front is going to be put your address in it and let it be visible. You will rank higher and rank faster right off the bat. It's a given. Google will say, no, that's not the case, but we've never been able to prove that's true. It always works in our favor. Service areas, okay? This is one that you could leave blank, but again, in interest of being specific and telling Google exactly where you want to do business, I would jump in here and I would put in, just as you've seen, city or county, state. As you do it, Google will let you look it up. So if I put in Provo, Utah, USA, it will give me that. Or I can go even more specific, 84601, and it will give me city with the zip code and the country. If I want to be that specific, I can. If you have multiple zip codes in your city, my suggestion is be as specific to Google as you can. That city was zip code number 1. That city was zip code number 2, and so forth. The more information you give to Google, basically think of it as you're making your case to Google why you're the best in that area, and the more specific you can be, the more likely you are to win. Again, a lot of people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, I serve Palm Springs, no problem. They put Palm Springs and leave it at that. Well, there are a lot of little towns in and around the Coachella Valley. Add every single one of them. Add every single zip code you can get. And if you need help with it, jump on to USPS.com and use their zip code locator, and you can type in an area and it will give you a list of all the cities and zip codes around you, a map you can look at, mark them off one by one. Again, it might seem tedious, but if you do that, it's a good bet that 99% of your competitors have not done this. So when Google compares your GMB side by side with them and says, okay, who do I want to put in the maps pack? Who do I really like and want to send all the phone calls to? Well, you have 10 times more information. You're the best bet. You're going to get those phone calls, not the guy down the street. Okay, business hours, fill that out. The important thing to pay attention to here, under more hours, you can put in here specific hours based on what you do. But more importantly are holiday hours. If you don't post holiday hours, Google catches on. I actually have a couple of different listings that I test things on. Identical businesses, different names in the same city. And on one of them, I consistently put in holiday hours. And on the other one, I don't. I just let it run. Well, the one that I make those holiday hours updates, it took a few months, but then it started outranking the other one because I'm providing better information. I'm more up to date. Okay. Phone number, whatever number you want. Your short name, this is what's going to show up. If you don't have one, go ahead and put it in. Simple and easy to do. A name people will recognize you by. If you're in the medical field, you can put in this health insurance information. If you're not, it won't be available. Your website should be it depends on your setup. I know some of you here, last week we talked with, who was it? Janet, I think, who was part of a major company. If you set one of these up, this website link should go specifically to your bio page, the page that represents you, not the entire company, but you. You want people finding you in your area. If you are the company, if it's your website, then definitely direct it towards your home page. Okay. If you use in your email or in your business anywhere some kind of online appointment scheduling calendar, and people can click a link to schedule an appointment with you, please put it in here, appointment links. If you do not use that, set one up. You can do Calendly is a service that you can use for free. Even if you think I'll never need to use that and nobody's ever going to use it if I put it up there, I don't care. The point is you're giving the most complete listing that you can to Google. Think of this like a resume. The more information you filled out and you haven't left any blanks, the more likely you are to get the job. COVID-19, that again goes back mainly to medical type services. We are seeing it creep into some office or some other industries with office settings. If your listing has it, then please put up a link. If you have the opportunity to put a COVID-19 info link and you have nothing on your site about COVID-19, write a really quick blog that says, hey, we're aware of COVID-19 and these are the steps we're taking, and then put the link to that blog right here. That will work well enough. Go ahead.
Sorry for the interruption. If Zoom logs you out real quick, just go back to follow the link and to resume the meeting in a minute. It's gonna log us out like I did last time. So sorry for the interruption though.
No problem. Thanks for the reminder.
I just didn't want to change the link so people wouldn't be confused. So.
Well, my counter says I've got less than a minute. So if I disappear, wait 1 second and I will get back into this.
Did you ask, is it Calendly?
Yeah. Oh, how do you spell it?
Pull it up here.
How do you spell it? Oh, you're going under.
Calendly.com. So CALENDLY.
Okay.
Go here, sign up. It's free. They have paid options if you want to do all kinds of fancy stuff, but they also have a free option that anybody can use that works just fine. Once you put a link wherever you want in your email, on your calendar, anywhere that somebody can click on and go, and you can determine the type of meeting it will be, a 15-minute, a 20-minute, a 1 hour, whatever you want. So useful tool. Definitely use it. Okay. But again, you're getting one more piece of information that, especially if you're in an industry where you're thinking, well, nobody's ever going to schedule that appointment with me. It doesn't make any sense. Well, then guess what? All of your competitors are thinking the exact same thing. So go get it. That's one step ahead of them, right? Menu link. If you offer, well, think of a menu link, not necessarily as a food menu, but what services or what products do I offer? For you, Robert, you should be using a menu link. It should go right back to your products page. It was, who am I looking for? Our real estate agent in leasing, Bruce, I think. I don't know if Bruce is on here, but if you provide professional services like property management, selling homes, corporate leasing, consulting, legal services, whatever it might be, come up with a menu. Just think of it as a services page. Start listing everything that you do in there. It's not hard to do. Virtual care link, you probably won't have that if you're not medical. Right here, products. Again, Robert, any of your products, I know you've got fitness products and the protein.
Yes.
There's protein cookie, right? Or powders?
Yes. Protein cookie mix. Yeah.
Yeah. List those. Just show you really quick. We won't create one, but it's really simple. Drop in a photo, put in the product name. You can create your own categories. You can name your categories. You're not going to be able to get an order through Google, but people will see it and then they'll click on a link and go to your site and purchase or give you a call, right?
Yeah.
I recommend prices, put a price range, right? It shows the button right here. If I turn this on, I can do a price range. So go low to high, everything that you offer. If you've got, a small cookie pack for $15 and a large box of cookies and powder and the full kit, everything they need for a month, that's $170, give them the whole range. Ranges won't scare people so much as a single price. If you've got just a single price, then it's, either that price works for me or that's out of my price range. Okay, so keep that in mind, specifically for products. Jump back in here. Okay, services, we already talked about that. If you do professional services, drop them all in here. When you do a service, you can put in, you can name the service and then give a description of what it is you're offering. This is great for professional services. You don't have to show a price, but, well, if you need the phone calls, don't show a price. If you're already starting to get busy or you grow to the point where you're busy, then again, you can put in a price range. That way people can look at it and say, okay, do I want to call this person or not? Are they in my range? Not a problem. But every kind of service you offer, and be creative, put in as many as you can. Because if you go on here, and you can see right here, we listed a whole bunch of services, a whole bunch of categories with services underneath. The more you offer, the higher you're going to rank. If you look at your competitors and they've got 5 services offered, put in 10. You may have to get really granular, but again, this isn't your ultimate selling point. Most people aren't going to look here and read through your services. This is specifically to please Google and get you showing up in the top of the maps pack. Oh, we don't want insights. Back to the main information. Okay. Right here, this area is your description. You can put up to, oh, I don't remember what the character limit is. It keeps changing, 750 characters. Get in there and write a business description about what you do, who you are, specifically mentioning services you offer based on the keywords or the search phrases people will type in to find you. Mention those, tie them to the cities that you're serving or the area that you serve. Get as close to the 750 characters as you possibly can. Okay, fill that out. Make sure you've got the date you opened, and then photos. Make sure you have photos. Under photos, let me go to the actual photo page here. You can see here that Google gives you very specific categories. An overview just shows every photo you've ever posted, no matter the category. We have photos by the owner. We have photos that your customers put up. Your customers can put any photo they want on your business listing. There's nothing you can do about it, so don't worry about it. 360 is a 360 camera view inside your building or outside. Videos, you can post videos. This is not a feature allowed for every industry. If you have it, grab your cell phone, and I would recommend 5 short videos. 30 seconds to a minute, just a quick walkthrough. Here's the area where we do this. Here's our front desk area. Here's the workshop. Here's kind of a behind the scenes look, that kind of stuff, okay? But try to get at least 5 images or videos in every single one of these categories that Google gives you, a minimum of 5, okay? You're gonna have to come up with about 30 different images and 5 videos. 5 seems to be the sweet spot. If you get at least 5 in there, it gives you a good bump. If you have less than 5 or you're missing photos in any of those categories, it will hold you back. All right, now let's talk about some of the pro hacks that we use. Let me jump back in. Let's go back here into info. Okay, now the algorithm Google uses to determine which GMB listing will show up on top. Let me do this. Let's do a quick search. Okay, so the algorithm that Google is using to determine who shows up right here in this maps listing is not the same as the algorithm or the recipe they use to determine which websites show up first. Okay? They work off of separate programs. They're tied together and they help each other, but this one is a little bit different. And there are a few quirks in the algorithm that you can use to your advantage. Now, The first one that we want to talk about, and probably one of the most powerful, is going to be the business name. Okay. The business name, the title you put in there for your business, carries a lot of weight with the GMB algorithm. Right? Now, Google's guidelines specifically say you need to use your business name and your name only. You cannot use your business name plus the service you offered if that is not your business name. So for example, on this company, Westchester Dental Arts, that is their official business name that they do business under. They could not call themselves Westchester Dental Arts, Westchester Family Dentist. Okay. If we were to jump in here, we couldn't look at Law Office of Thurman W. Arnold. If he were to put in there Law Office of Thurman W. Arnold dash Attorney Palm Springs, and that's not his official name, Google will blackball him. They will wipe it out and his GMB listing is gone. And that is a huge blow to his business. Okay, so remember, that is the guideline. You cannot you can't stuff extra information into your name category, right? Now, here's the trick. I told you the name is very heavily weighted. One thing that we do if you're thinking about starting a new business and it's a service, for example, let's say it's a plumber, you're going to start your own plumbing business in Palm Springs. I would highly recommend naming your business something like Johnson Family Plumber of Palm Springs. Okay? Now you're getting the main category you need to rank for, and the main city that you're going to serve is in your name. That will shoot you to the top really fast. Okay, now if you're not starting a new business, here's one other trick that will fit within their guidelines that you can back up and support. You could consider filing a DBA and create yourself a second business name that is virtually the same as your first, but includes the service you offer and the city that you want to rank for. So if I was Johnson Plumbing, I could file a DBA and say, I am now Johnson Plumbing of Palm Springs. And that would rocket me to the top in a hurry. I would need to file that DBA because if one of your competitor reports you to Google and says that's not really their name, and you don't have paperwork to prove it really is your legal business name, they'll shut you down. Okay. Now, depending on where you are in the country, filing a DBA can be a nightmare. Here in Utah, it takes me about 5 minutes and costs me $20, and I can have a new DBA whenever I want it. In New Jersey, it would probably take me 5 months and $500 to file a DBA. So it just depends on what your state laws are. I don't know what it would take in California, but it is certainly worth the effort to do that and be able to edit your name so that it includes company name plus service we offer plus city of this town. Okay, so that's number one pro hack. That is incredibly valuable. If you can find a way to use it, most definitely do.
How long is the DBA good for? How long is the DBA good for? Is there any expiration or anything? Or
that varies from state to state. In Utah,
okay.
It's as good as my business license, which I have to renew yearly.
Yeah.
But I mean, once it's set up, it's just a part of the entity renewal process generally. And so if you paid $100 to renew your entity this year and then you filed the DBA for your entity, then next year it might cost you $120, but that renews everything. So I don't know, not a legal expert. That's something you check with for each of your states. Okay. The next thing that you should pay attention to is your reviews. Okay. Now keep in mind, Google loves to see interaction between customers and companies. They like to see that they're communicating. Google tries to facilitate that. In every business, you get to collect your reviews. Let's jump in here. Okay. You can see these are all the reviews that customers have given this company. It shows all the reviews that you have replied to, and the reviews that you haven't replied to. Okay. This company has 498 reviews or something right now. Replies are important. That shows that there's communication between you and your customers. Google will give you credit for that. That scores you points every time you reply to a review. Okay, that's common knowledge. The trick here is when you go in and you reply to a customer, you want to put something in, you know, saying thank you. And then you also want to add in something about, we're grateful you could come here and we could help you with, you know, whatever service you provided for them or product. And we're so glad that you're here with us in, Palm Springs, not Palm Service. Okay. So a thank you plus the keyword phrase you want to rank on, plus the city you want to rank in, where you're representing your business. That will be powerful. Google gives a lot of credit to how much each review you get is worth. Throwing in those keyword phrases, Google is basically reinforcing itself. That will give you a big boost. Right now, these guys' rankings and traffics would go through the roof if they jumped in and did a quick 2-sentence reply to all 497 reviews that they have never replied to. If you have a bunch of reviews and you haven't replied, go in and do it right away. Simple, easy way to boost your rankings in a hurry. Now, Robert, you mentioned, I think it was you who said earlier, you've picked up a couple of reviews that are not great and you don't even know who they are.
Yes.
Okay, don't worry about it. The chances of you getting Google to remove those reviews are slim to none. It almost never happens. They have a process you can go through to dispute that review, and you can provide all kinds of proof. And ultimately, what it comes down to is whoever's handling that account at the end of the day, they might say, I'm in a good mood, sure, I'll delete that review. Or they might say, I'm in a good review, or I'm in a good mood today, but I just don't care, and it will stay there. Okay? It's really not worth the effort to try to get rid of them. Your best bet is, number one, go in and collect a whole bunch of good reviews to bury it, right? Like Rich said, if you've got some negative reviews, that's not a bad thing. It actually adds credibility and people will trust your account more because you have a few negative reviews. The second thing you can do with the negative reviews is get in there and reply. Be polite, state your case, offer to solve the problem for them. Just say, hey, on the receipt we gave you, it's got our phone number. Please call us and we will be more than happy to make this right. Okay? You put that kind of response out there and people who are looking, saying, well, what are the bad things somebody said? They'll read those reviews. They'll see your response and think, oh, well, they were pretty quick about trying to solve the problem here. That's good. That gives me a little extra confidence in dealing with these people. Okay. Now, one other good trick that you can use when you get a negative review, and we've had I recommend this to all of our customers that are collecting reviews. I can think of a handful that have actually done it and used it to their advantage. Put in that review the same information. Hey, we're sorry that happened. That's not the standards we're up to. If you'll reach out to us with the number on your receipt, we will fix this and make it right. And by the way, anybody else who is reading this review, when you come in to do business with us and you mention that you read this review, we'll give you a discount, or we've got a freebie that we're going to give you because you gave us a shot. That drove for one company in Riverside, California, the service they offer, they offered that, said, hey, we'll give you a 10% discount on your service when you mentioned that you read this negative review and still gave us a shot. A 10% discount on the service he offers is, $700 or $800. It's almost his profit margin. But by responding to that one single review that way, he had 12 people in the next week that brought vehicles to him for his service specifically because of his response on that review. And that's not the only time we've heard results like that. So if you've got a negative review, throw out a bonus to anybody who's read it. Hey, if you're reading this negative review, we do our best. We'll make things right for him or anyone else. Come in and mention to us that you read this negative review and you want the discount or the free giveaway that we're offering with it. Okay, so pay attention to the reviews. Now, the last thing for spying on your competitors, you want to know what they're doing. Okay, so let's jump in here. We mentioned the categories. If you can see the categories that people are in, that will give you an idea of, hey, what are they using to drive business to themselves? Are they offering something that I'm not? Or maybe I offer it, but I haven't thought to advertise that. So if we go in here, I can do a search, and this is a plugin you can get free on Google Chrome. It's called GMB Crush. Excuse me. If I use GMB Crush, I can go in and it will pull up any attorney or any of my competitors that I search. And it'll pull up their listing. Let me see. Let me back out of this. Let me go into the maps here. So again, it's a free download that you can pull up. Anybody can use it. I don't know who built this. It's a little bit clunky, but it gives me quick information I need that's valuable. So I can look at any of my competitors. I pull them up in the maps. And when you have GMB Crush downloaded, it will add in these two buttons right here. Okay. If I click search now, it takes a minute to run through and scrape all the data you need. But when I do that, it gives me a couple of things that are important. Number one, it shows me the categories. Are they using categories that I'm not? And can I use those? If so, I want to match them step for step. I want to put in every single category that they have. Okay. The rating score and the number of reviews, that's useful, but you can find that on their account anyways. The other piece that you want to pay attention to is right here, PC. This is post count and post count in the last 90 days. Posts are through GMB. You can do the same thing as you can on Facebook. You can put up you can do a post just like on Facebook. You can put a new one and it'll give information. You should be doing that on a regular basis. If you look on here, you can see this particular attorney has 11 posts. They don't have any in the last 90 days. That tells me they're not consistent. In the last year, we've seen the value of Google posts go up significantly. If you will go in and focus on your reviews, getting those consistently, even if it's just a couple of weeks, but you do it week in and week out for the next 4 or 5 months, and then you will go in and create a post, a short blog to put on Google Posts. 3 or 4 months from now, you will probably be at the top of your market. Okay, it really is that simple. 3 or 4 months from now, you can be sitting in the Maps pack.
Oh, it's
Your garbage man doesn't come
Okay.
before 10.
Right here.
Pencil five.
And that's where you want to be. Shut that. So those are the tips. Number one is if you can find a way to set up a DBA and put the service you offer and the city name into your name on GMB, do it. Guaranteed it's a big jump. You'll probably find yourself in the 3-pack overnight. Okay. Number two is when you respond to the reviews, make sure that you're putting in your response. Hey, thanks for coming in. We're glad we could help you with the service and also the city you're in. Glad we could take care of your plumbing problem in Palm Springs, or we're glad we could be your oil service in Palm Springs, oil change service, whatever it might be. Throw those into the reviews. Big credit for those right away. Not many people do it, even though Google gives out lots of points for that. Okay. And then the last one is spy on your competitors. Use GMB Crush. It's free. You want to see the categories that they're in, then make sure you match yourself up. Go back into GMB and add in those categories yourself so that you're not missing anything. Look at a number of different competitors, and you'll see some competitors have a couple you don't. Well, take all of them, make a list, and add as many of them in as you can. All right, now we're just over time. It's just over 10 o'clock. Do we have any questions right now?
I got a Facebook question, if you could answer that.
We
Should I
will be
wait?
getting into Facebook next week.
All right, we'll do next week, yeah.
Okay. If you want to send me an email with that Facebook question, I can respond to it. And then we'll talk about it next week in more.
Sure.
When you
Any
address,
okay, go ahead.
when you put an address in, could it be a PO box?
No, do not use a PO box. Google does not like PO boxes or shared office spaces like a Regis, executive suite. Those are basically a no-no, and Google won't do it. If those are your options, just have it mailed to your home address, or if you've got a buddy who lives a few blocks away or across town, ask them, say, hey, would you let me use your address? I just need you to get a postcard, that's it. And then you can hide the address if you want. But yeah, PO boxes, UPS boxes, executive suites do not work well. Half the time, Google won't even send a postcard to verify it. But good question. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm going to assume that's it for now. Next week, we'll be talking about social media, free tools you guys can use on there to get your business online, to get your products online. You can actually pick up sales through Facebook. You can buy on Facebook right there and money deposited in your account. Free tools to do that, some tricks to outrank competitors to get a lot of free traffic. We'll go over all of that. So beware, we'll teach you how to optimize Facebook and use it to your advantage. Again, it's all free stuff. And we're going to show you, Facebook has some really cool things. If you know where to look, you can get some pretty detailed information on your competition. Exactly what ads they're doing, the strategy they're doing, the offers they're giving. There's a ton of information. I'm going to show you how to get into all of that for next week. So thanks for your time, guys. I am going to turn it back over to Augustin.
Paul, thank you very much. This is very informative information. So definitely thank you. Thank you very much. Rich, thank you. And let's see you guys next week for Facebook.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.